Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another manipulative. We are going to be looking at Rekenreks today. And I will never forget the first time I said the word and a student said, "What the heck is a Rekenrek?" And that seems to be a pretty popular title to a lot of research that's been done. So let's go in and find out if you haven't worked with one, or maybe you've worked with one and just didn't know that's what they were called. Let's begin with our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we are meeting from across Alberta on Treaty 6, 7, and 8 territories, and we honor and acknowledge all of the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples who have lived, traveled, and gathered on these lands for thousands of years. We acknowledge that these lands are traditional meeting grounds, giving voice to its original peoples and the story of creation in a way that history has forgotten. So we are looking at Rekenreks. And really, a Rekenrek, just as a bit of an overview and trying to do that with each of the manipulatives, is just a counting tool, is really all it is. It's a tool that allows us to start small, as you see sort of pictured here, just 2 rows of beads on it, or it can get quite a bit larger where it has 10 rows of beads on it. And it's based on the premise that you can see there are groups of 5 in color, 5 red, 5 white. So it allows me to use those groups of 5s and 10s to do some quick counting. And as I get more proficient at it, then I can expand the size of it. So typically, kindergarten students, grade 1 students are working with this one here. Grade 1s will go beyond that as well. But for now, if they're doing their math facts and I'm in kindergarten, I'm just learning how to count to grade to 10, then I'm just going to be using a small rod or a Rekenrek. They can get larger than 10s, but normally that would be it because that is the sort of the standard values that we look for, especially go up to grade 3. Let's say our math facts to 100. So when I have 10 beads on each row and 10 rows, the 100 is a great board for us to move forward from just the basic math facts from here. Where did they come from? From a gentleman that was by the name of Adrian Treffers from the Freudenthal Institute in Holland. It's been fascinating to do the research for every manipulative. Some of them I knew, but there's lots of stuff I don't know. And so I've always tried to include a little bit that maybe you can share with the students as well. And he was really looking again at something where students could use as a counting rack to come up with a way for them to be able to quickly, mentally, and visually combine numbers to see what values of 8 look like, to see what values of 10 look like, then in groups of 10, but also using that the white and red combinations of 5. In 1989, the NCTM reform of mathematics, which affected all of us, it wasn't just a location, basically moved the philosophy of mathematics from a stand up and deliver type of model to one in which, not saying there isn't any delivery, but obviously we're very much more in tune with how students learn and the different ways that they learn. And so trying to get it more into an understanding perspective, and hence the really resurgence and big push on manipulatives came forward. And so that's why in the early 90s, towards sort of the mid to latter part of the 90s, there was so much PD that was happening in all the manipulatives at that time. And so I think there were probably a good number of years where people said, again, we're going to have these again. And then we kind of dropped it. And then I think we just assumed everybody knew and just left everything. So I think it's nice to revisit some of these because we haven't used some of them for a while. So anyway, that gives you a little bit of background. If you want more, you just need to Google his name and you'll get lots of info on that. I've also included a link in here. K5 Math Teaching Resources are a great site for a lot of different things, but they have some great prompt cards that I've used in the past. You can just print these off, but they're just ways that you can either randomly go down the rows. You can call out a number and give each of the students a different card, and then they're trying to explain. Some of them are more difficult than others, so you can pick and choose, but they're great just prompt cards. Like how do I know that they really understand what we're talking about? How can they explain their thinking? So more for you to decide if you want to use and who to use them with than for the student. So if you don't have any, where do I get them? Most schools have some form of a Rekenrek somewhere in this goal, but let's just say you don't. These are not in any order of importance or better than another. I just went through to find sort of who offers the ones that we're looking for in the red and white, who has a variety of different sizes, because we do want to have the ability to choose to go beyond, especially if you're going to use it for multiplication facts. Then we don't want to just stop at this size here. Some schools just order the 10 rows and then they limit what the kindergarten and grade 1 see. Some have all of them. So it's kind of up to you to see what you need and what you want in your school. All of that said, the bottom one is a US one. And so I just want to point that out to you that you'd be paying in US dollars. The rest of them are all Canadian and pretty easy to get. So it's not a hard one to find because a lot of people sell them. Our goal is to have them in their hands, not on the screen. But we also know that sometimes kids are sick these days and are at home, and you want to keep them, get caught up and doing the things that you want. So I've just listed sort of 4 of them that give us the same place to do that on the screen and work with them. Or if they have the small ones in their hands and you want to do one as a projection, then you've got some choices to go to. So again, these are not in any particular order whatsoever. They just giving you an idea of what you would see and what you would have access to. Some have more tutorials, some have more options for adding rows to it, some are limited to 2. So it just gives you a little bit of a choice here, and you can just click them on and go from there. Okay, so let's move to the hands-on. If you have one, then please have it with you so that you can just be doing the bees at the same time, like moving them along. If you don't, just watch along, but I am at the end going to show you how to make one of these and how cheap it actually could be to make an entire class set. It's probably the easiest manipulative that we can make and that kids can actually just keep. Very, very easy and very, very reasonable to buy. All right, thanks very much, and we'll see you in the hands-on recording.